with the Sirius XM News Channel.
Campuses across the country, we have seen marches.
From cable news to business.
And so the markets need to be prepared.
And international.
Tensions are running high as
Watch the Sirius XM News channels starting at channel 112 and on the new Sirius XM app.
Tell your friends and family. Sirius XM radios are on free now through June 3rd. Visit SiriusXM.com/listen free to see what's on.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000.
Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief took care of Eric's problem.
And now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-516-4583. 800-516-4583.
Optima Tax Relief.
The NBA app is everyone's app. Every fan of every team.
Oh, my goodness.
Everyone who follows LeBron, Tatum, and Embiid in the app. Every warrior who's ready to go to battle over three-point percentages. Every streetwear king who's here for the tunnel fits. Every young buck, nugget, and grizzly who wants to take a peek behind the scenes of the league. And everyone else on this floating basketball we call Earth. Download the NBA app today. Available in the Google Play, Apple app, and Android stores.
Steve Kerr.
Curry behind the back twice, leans, fades, fires, it's up and good!
You're listening to Sirius XM NBA Radio.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. You gotta get this.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018148668.
Grando do Portes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people of the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! 3 o'clock in the morning. As I said many times, I was voted neighborhood spokesperson, and no matter how much I want to pat myself on the back, some people don't appreciate that I try to bring the neighborhood together at 3 o'clock in the morning. But that's their problem and not mine. They voted for me, so they got to get what they get. At least I did promise reparations, and I think there's some powerful people in California that are part of my push for reparations. Don't worry about it. I'm also gonna champion touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Old man Willie, he's going all the way. Galactic strike. Got some NBA basketball. Last night, what a game with the Dallas Mavericks and J.R. Ewing, otherwise known as Luka Doncic, and the great Kyrie Irving. They showed the Big Cat and Anthony Edwards. When you play people from Dallas, you gotta know, they say in Texas, the stars shine brighter in Texas. I don't know if that's true or not. They were playing inside of an arena. But there's something about kind of a call that was a goaltending call against the Big Cat may have changed the game. I know you want to let them play the game. Let them play the game, referees. Let them play the game, because it could have turned the tide of that game, if that makes sense to you. But the great Kyrie Irving, playing like he played when he won a championship with Cleveland. This is for you. but the great Kyrie Irving is showing how great of a basketball player he is. I don't know if Anthony Edwards wants to call out the great Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie is like, he's like if you ever watched the Harlem Globetrotters, there was the good old boy Curly Neal, who could dribble the ball around even with his toes. But Kyrie Irving, when he's got his groove going, and the great Luka Doncic is playing basketball instead of trying to argue with the officials for an extra call, Dallas is a tough out. I still feel that Minnesota's the better team. They missed a lot of shots because they really didn't have their legs on them. They're just taking care of Denver. They were coming off that emotional high, taking care of Denver in 7 games. I'm not making any excuses. Dallas won the game. They won it fair and square. I still don't like that goaltending call against the Big Cat going down. I mean, the game was right down in the final minutes, and that was going to change the tide, but it took a basket away. And then Dallas, they got the chance to roll. All they say is all's fair in love and war. And then tonight, you got to look at the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers, they had the Boston Celtics right where they wanted them. And then they let it get away. What did the late Dennis Green say? The Celtics are who we thought they were. You want to crown them? Crown them. You know, they let him off the hook. The late Dennis Green was saying they let him off the hook. Tonight, if Indiana has any hope, Obi-Wan, you are our last hope. The only hope they have is that Boston lays flat. Now, Boston's lost a home game in every series in the playoffs. Now, they lost to Cleveland a home game. They lost to Miami a home game. And now they have Indiana. But I don't think they're going to lose tonight. If you blow a 4-point lead with 10 seconds left on the road by fumbling the ball, not by getting the shot blocked, but by just fumbling the ball away. They didn't do a good job of clock management, and the coach says blame the coach. But you got some great players at Indiana. Halliburton do his thing, but there's something about Boston. It's not the TD Garden is not the old Boston Garden. The old Boston Garden did not have air conditioning, and they did that on purpose. But the TD Garden crowd is a lot like the Boston Garden crowd. And I think they got on top of the Indiana Pacers, and they get little tightening in their sphincter, if that makes sense. If you ever get a little tightening in your sphincter, well, I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I'm going to get some tightening in my sphincter, if that makes sense. But it's good. It can be a good thing to have tightening in your sphincter. But tonight we have Indiana. They're taking on the Boston Celtics, and I think Boston's going to win that game. And who cares what I think? I'm going to make a bold prediction for 800 gambling folks out there. Listen up, because you don't want to miss this prediction. I really do believe that the team that scores the most points, they're going to win the game tonight. Well, that may sound like I'm being silly, but I thought that Indiana, they outscored Boston last time, just not when it counted. That was a horrible loss they had in game 1. They have to feel a little bit demoralized for game 2. But if you're the gambling angle, this is the time where you pour all your money on Indiana to win, because nobody's picking Indiana to win this game. Nobody. Not even the fans of Indiana. But I do think Boston gets on top tonight to go 2 games to none. Looks like the big series will be the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves, because that game could have gone either way. Just like the first 2 games, they've been some great games. NHL hockey has to take a back seat. I still like the Dallas Stars coming out of that and taking on the Lord Stanley's Cup. But we'll see. There's some other teams out there looking to knock them off. We'll see. I'll get into a little bit of hockey as well. You know, I would not be true Big C Sports if I did not talk about a little reparations. I love saying that, so I'm going to get in that too. It's a big thing. It's never happened before in this country. They have the Senate support reparations for descendants of chattel slavery. At Big C Sports Podcast, give that some praise, because I always produce the show. I direct the topic. I broadcast all the shows based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives. I know I can use more laughter. And then the commercials are done. As I tell you, the stats are provided. And then I do the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play. You want to hear the play-by-play? The Big Cat, Carl Anthony Towns for 3. Get the hole in your life. No, they called it goaltending. I didn't like that call. They didn't even block out. He had a clear lane. And they called goaltending. But you want to know what happened last night? The great Kyrie Irving for 3. Yes, get the hole in your life. Kyrie Irving's amazing. He's a bad brother. And I really love the way that he's showing when he left Cleveland, had to stay with Boston, had to stay with Brooklyn, and he's having more success that he's with the Dallas Mavericks, and Luka Doncic is having more success too because he has a true point guard, the great Kyrie Irving, who can get you open spaces. And he needs to do that, but he can also drop it from any place in the court. Defense not as solid as it could be, but he's still a very dominant player, and I love watching the great Kyrie Irving when he's doing his thing. And I just love NBA basketball. To me, I think it's fantastic. The great Magic Johnson said that back in the day. And then the shows goes out to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City, and then streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. And then I never missed a show since doing Big C Sports with the crew back in the day at Salem Media, and then doing our own thing with Big C Sports Podcast. Really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports Podcast. What I love doing also with Big C Sports Podcast is I've been doing this for years. I love paying homage to our Veterans Crisis Hotline because they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone, call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. If you're online, simply go to 838. Beg your mind. The text is 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give it some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. And it's so good when somebody's leaning back. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And now I don't sound like some screaming fool that many people told me I was when I kept talking reparations. I heard, Big C, would you mind a little constructive criticism? I said, as long as it's not destructive criticism, I won't do it. And some of my good friends, they said, man, you gon' kind of sound like a fool talk about this reparation stuff, and you know they're gonna vote no. I said, if they vote no, may lightning strike. No, they didn't vote no. Next is going to the Assembly. There's 80 votes. We only need 41 votes for it to pass to the State Assembly of California. And it's going to sweep the nation because what happens in California, it sweeps the country because people are smarter in California. Not only are they smarter, they're more fair in California. And when people talk about reparations, the Senate of California is mostly Caucasian. Overwhelmingly Caucasian. But even they have some decent people that may not have existed 50 years ago. But people now, they're more egalitarian, I think. I think the vote proves that. And that's why I'm so a staunch supporter of reparations. I believe either lead, follow, or get out of the way. I'm not somebody to sit back and say, well, they ain't going to do nothing for us. I don't believe in that. I believe in positive thinking. And I was talking to a friend of mine today, a former San Francisco 49er, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and we talked about visualization. And a lot of things that people can accomplish in life, you do it through visualizing. There's a gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients call it the third eye. And I think Senator Stephen Bradford has that pineal gland, and he uses it. Almost everything in life that all of us have in our life at one time, it was just a thought. No matter who you are, everything in life right now, if you look around, at one time, it was just a thought. And when you back those thoughts with emotion and intensity, may lightning strike! And so I'm trying to say to my own self, if it's important, I put things on a piece of paper. It's called pen to paper. When Senator Bradford was giving a speech in front of the California State Senate, he had the papers in his hand. And when people look at that man and the way he speaks with that baritone voice, even if you're crooked, you say, this man's pretty smart and he has a good salient points to talk about. So that's one of the things I really like about supporting California Senator Stephen Bradford, because he He's a brilliant man, and he's doing a lot of things for good people. Reparations will stimulate this economy, and for people who don't understand that, then shame on you. But that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to also say, when it comes to Big C Sports Podcast, I have things that I want to do that may or may not make sense to a lot of people. Because as I keep calling for the NBA and the NFL to take more of a bold approach to doing things that benefit our entire society and economy as well. And I think it's so important that if we can do that, we talk about NBA basketball playoffs, NHL hockey playoffs. There are a lot of things that we talk about, but reparations is so powerful. And that's why I want to get into it again, because if I don't talk about it on Big C Sports Podcast, most shows, they won't talk about it. But I'm going to say, just from your own edification, Senate Bill 1050 passed 29-5, was a vote that I took a picture of. And then Senate Bill 1331, it passed 29-7. That's what I took a picture of. And Senate Bill 1403 passed 29-7, and that's what I took a picture of. Now, people can Google what those bills mean. Sometimes the thing with reparations, people want to say, well, tell me what it means. No, you tell yourself what it means. Be involved. Pay attention. Because if we want someone to spoon feed us all the time, how are you going to learn? When a parent's giving the baby the food, sometimes the parent puts the spoon in the baby's hand. So the baby can learn to spoon feed itself. And there are times when people who want to know, well, tell me about these reparations. Google it. And I know some people will and some people won't, and that's okay. But just Google it. I had a meeting last night that was put on by Queen, and she brought some men together in the capital city, fed people, also had talks on reparations that I love being a part of that conversation. And it doesn't mean that it's for everybody. But there's a gentleman by the name of Chris Lodge that also spoke, and he presented those bills, and he talked about Senate Bill 1331, a California Senate bill that would create a state fund with funding for reparations policies that indemnify residents whose ancestors were enslaved and emancipated in the United States. California reparations now. Reparations now! Reparations forever! I talk about that all the time on Big C Sports Podcast. It's called California Reparations Now Fund. And I gotta tell you, he also had a flyer, SB 1403, which is Senate Bill 1403, a California Senate bill to create a state agency to implement, oversee, and monitor policies and laws relating to reparations for residents whose ancestors were enslaved and emancipated in the United States of America. California reparations now! And also, I want people to go on to CJEC-official.org. That's CJEC-official.org. That's California for Just and Equitable Coalition. I believe that's what it stands for. I don't want to tell it wrong, but CJEC-official.org. So he handed out that card, and I really appreciate him giving a speech last night. Also, the collard greens were good, and the rice was good. The food was really good, and the conversation was great. So I want to thank Marvell, who also hosts the Reparations show every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11, and to really just appreciate so many great people that are doing a good job to get the word out there. And yeah, we love sports too, but we're more than just touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh man, Willie, he's going all the way. I love doing that. We're more than just that. Now, I want to say, with Big C Sports Podcast, I'm also doing things to make sure that we get long-term care entitlements, and that affects a lot of our elders. And then I'll get into the reparations task force as well, because I want to do something that's more important than just me talking about sports and who won a game. It's so powerful. It's important that I tell you this, because it's more important than who won a game. We talk about what do we want? Reparations. When do we want it? Now. We want it now. Well, I'm doing a commercial. And unlike most people that do commercials, they go into a studio, they do 29 takes. On Big C Sports, I do one take. If I make a mistake, you get to hear my mistake. But if I don't make a mistake, then you don't get to hear my mistake either. And I don't want to make a mistake. I say I don't want to make a mistake. I say I don't want to make a mistake. I say I don't want to make a mistake. I think if I repeat it more and more, then I won't make a mistake, if that makes sense. But a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth, Resource Development Consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law office of George Jones. The Missing Link, Long-Term Care, Solutions by the Book, over 3 decades of experience, helping seniors to get their benefits. Medicare and You, Taking Care of Tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. In other parts of the country, it's called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. Find out your options are promised to you. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. To specialize and navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without a spend down. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists. That's important. Ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary. Benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medication, medical equipment costs, and more. Have you ever known anyone that's dealt with skilled nursing facilities? Have you ever known anyone who's ever dealt with medical prescriptions? Maybe when you woke up this morning. Could have been the person in the mirror. Have you ever known anybody who's ever dealt with medical equipment costs and more? Not only that, protection of your assets. Have you ever known anybody that needed to have their asset protected? That's everybody. Protection of your assets. Is that Gap Insurance, Big C? No, that's the duck. That's Aflac. We do asset protection. A duck cannot protect its own assets, let alone yours. We do asset protection, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. Avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. Because as Reverend Tony Pierce told me today, if you don't have a will, they have a will for you. Reverend, I told you I'd give you credit for that too. It's a good sign when the Reverend says something that's so on point. If you don't have a will, they have one for you. If you don't have a will, they will have one for you. Some people say I talk too fast, so I'm going to talk a little bit slower. If you don't have a will, they will have one for you. You get that through the RDC team, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. A one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. Not only that, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Asset protection, in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law office of George Jones. Protection insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance. Not only that, I said not only that, pre-planning and avoid the look-back period. What about fixed assets? Your bank account, checking account, savings account, money market, certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, fixed indexed annuities. Not only that, I'm not done yet. Variable assets, real estate, qualified money, IRAs, 401ks, other investments. How about avoid capital gains? You know, you go to some real estate meetings now, and they tell you you can buy a house for $100,000. And people go, where in the world can we buy that house? And they say next year it's going to appreciate to $1 million. Oh my goodness, I got to buy that house. That's a $900,000 capital gains that you pay tax on. If you have the property in a trust, you avoid that. If that makes sense to you, over 3 decades of experience. Attention business owners. I said attention business owners. Find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, and tell them Big C sent you. Big C, my insurance covers everything. Well, if that's the case, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. Tell them Big C sent you. All I need is a copy of your insurance declaration page, and we'll make sure that you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Now, not only that, I want to tell you, when I talk about the RDC team, I'm still doing this infomercial. when someone says do business with us, one of the easiest things to say, well, who endorses you? Who's already done business with you that endorses you with the RDC team? And that's a fair question. And you should ask that of everybody, because Big C Sports and the RDC team, I'm one of the only consultants in the universe I will tell you to get a second opinion. Because a second opinion, not only does it protect you, it protects your assets. It protects everybody. And it makes sure that we're on our toes. You ever stand on your toes? It makes us mind our P's and Q's. And that's why I want to say, get that second opinion. We have it. I'm going to tell you the second opinion for the RDC team, and you could Google it for yourself. Write these things down. You don't have to just trust me. That's important. And all I ask is whoever you're doing your financial services with, ask them who endorses them too. Our endorsements, Mr. George Jones, the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, also California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top lawyers in California, Mr. Leon Woods, resource development consultant, works with many of the top lobbyists in California, Ms. Cheryl Brown, she's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. You have the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She's not going to give an endorsement to just anybody. She endorses the RDC team. Mr. Ray De La Cruz, the CEO of Resource Development Consultant, has the endorsement of the late CalPERS legal mind top lawyer, the late Robert Carlson. He endorsed the RDC team. Mr. Alex De La Cruz, founder of American Veterans Benefits, he endorsed the RDC team. Not only that, you have Charlton Curry, co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project, and also business development consultant. I endorse the RDC team. He's actually helped with my family. And then we have, not only that, we have Double O, payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She endorses the RDC team as a consultant as well. Has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can hear it on Access Sacramento. And you can give it all praise. I say give it all praise, 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 because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I want to do a great job with Big C Sports Podcast. Now, before I get into some sports, oh my God, I want to make sure I pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force. As I say, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And you know these people, especially Senator Stephen Bradford, because he's like Moses. What did God tell Moses? He says, go down there into Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And when Senator Bradford said, well, who do I tell him to send me? God said, tell him I am sent you. And that's what it was like when he was speaking in front of the Senate. Very eloquent speaker, very powerful man. Really do appreciate his intellect. He puts pen to paper. I want to thank the California Reparations Task Force, the chair, Attorney Camila Moore. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. Dr. Amy C. Brown, the vice chair. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. He got those bills passed. He still needs our support. Senate Bill 1403, Senate Bill 1331, and Senate Bill 1050. But he still needs our support with the State Assembly of California. But the man is brilliant, and he's not afraid. If only some NBA players and NFL players could do what Senator Bradford does, and that's put pen to paper, if that makes sense to you. And then I have Council Member Monica Montgomery Stepp. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Shells Groves. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, also a professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaki, part of the California Reparations Task Force as a Japanese American. He got reparations. I want to give him praise. Give him all praise, praise, praise. But that's my story, and I'm sticking with it because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I want to play something before I get into some sports. Touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh man, Willie, he's going all the way. I want to get into the words of a very eloquent speaker when it comes to reparations, because what happened Tuesday had never happened before in this country for descendants of child slavery.
Now to the latest on the push for reparations for Black Californians for slavery and decades of discriminatory policies.
Yeah, 3 key bills had major votes in the state Senate today.
Yeah, ABC 7 News anchor and race and social justice reporter Julian Glover has been following this really every step of the way, and he's here with the votes. Julian, that just came in.
Exactly. Those votes just came down within the last hour. We are, of course, watching those closely here. All 3 of these key reparations bill passed. the California Senate with comfortable margins. We want to start with SB 1403. This was the really big one here. It would create a new state agency, the California Freedmen Affairs Agency. Now, that agency would oversee and administer any reparations measures that are passed. To be eligible, you'd have to be able to trace lineage back to an enslaved person or black person in the U.S. before the end of the 19th century. The bill passed 30-7. The second bill, SB 1331, would create a fund for reparations and reparative justice in the state treasury. This would be where the money would come from to pay for reparations. The Senate voted in favor of establishing the fund, but no specific funding mechanism has been determined as the state continues to navigate the significant budget deficit we've been telling you about. In other words, the account has been open, but there's no money in it currently. It passed 29-8. Now, the third bill passed in a 32-5 vote. It would provide compensation to families who've had their property taken from them in racially motivated applications of eminent domain.
The power of eminent domain has been used repeatedly to abuse, to move black and brown people off of their land and destroy their homes. These actions have devastated the opportunity for families to build intergenerational wealth through the owning of land.
The three bills today join AB 3089 that passed the state assembly last week. The bill would issue an apology to black Californians for the state's role in instituting slave laws and discriminatory practices since its founding. Now, without a doubt, a true history-making day at the state capitol. Now, of course, we wait for these bills to go before the assembly, which will happen in the coming weeks. Then, if passed, those bills would go before the governor to sign or veto them. That could happen as early as September of this year.
So a long way to go here, but real progress today.
Significant progress that is surely being watched all across the country right now.
Sure.
Reparations now, reparations forever. May lightning strike. Reparations now, reparations forever. I tell you, my show's always different. I want to let you hear the top paid sportscaster in the United States, Stephen A. Smith with ESPN. He's going to talk to Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, not about touchdown, home run, three-point play. Old man Willie, he's going all the way. Oh, Big C, you talk too much about politics. Well, listen to what Stephen Smith is doing right now, and I think Big C Sports been doing this since 2015. Listen with your own ears.
Absolutely. And first of all, let me speak to that. You are a man of tremendous integrity and huge authenticity, and you call it like you see it. And the truth is that there is a troubling phenomenon and trend. There is a problem here, or at least there is a trend that is noticeable that we have to be honest about. We can't stick our heads in the sand and pretend that it's not the case. That's not an endorsement, that's an analysis. I happen to be a Joe Biden supporter, but that doesn't mean I can't see what's going on. That doesn't mean I close my eyes. And you're absolutely right. We have to take this extremely seriously because as you've so intelligently pointed out, Barack Obama had a kind of inborn and inbred charisma. He had a natural advantage. He had house money that he was playing with in a way that neither Hillary Clinton nor Joe Biden possess. And that is the radical and immediate identification of African-American masses of black people with a candidate like Barack Obama. Now, arguably, Joe Biden has done more specifically for African-American people in terms of the effect of the policies. The rate of unemployment is significantly lower. The fact that you've got a black vice president in office and a black woman on the Supreme Court, not only symbolically, but substantively in terms of what he's done with housing and economic inequality, and also for those people who have received refunds, who have been forgiven of their student loans. So when we look across the board, Joe Biden has arguably done even more. And yet the messaging behind that is not equally as powerful. First, because he doesn't have the inbuilt advantage of a Barack Obama. And secondly, because sometimes Democrats are loath to get out there and brag about what they're doing. You've got to get out there and brag and tell the people what you're doing. You've got to announce it from your bully pulpit as he crisscrosses this nation on his campaign stops to talk about what's going on and to figure out new media, to figure out social media, to figure out the old school stuff, and make sure that you're involving the black media in your plans, which is...
I gotta say the black media, because Big C Sports is the black media. It is black owned. Reverend Williams talked about we are the press. Double O talks about we are the press. Brother Aleem Shabazz talks about we are the press. We are the press. We don't have to wait for mainstream to do anything. But I do want to say with Big C Sports Podcast, I was also written up by the Associated Press on reparations and sports. And now Stephen A. Smith, the highest paid broadcaster for ESPN, I think about $15 million a year, he's talking politics now. I tell you, there's a shift happening in this country where beautiful, intelligent black men are not just saying, touchdown, home run, three-point play, oh man Willie, he's going all the way. Imagine when we get our NBA players and NFL players to lock arms with their decent white brethren and start saying, we deserve reparations. Now, if they could just get to the boldness that Big C Sports has and start supporting the California Senator Stephen Bradford for reparations now, reparations forever, then they'll do more than just talking about presidency. But listen up a little bit more.
Often been a criticism levied by people within the media. So when we put all that stuff together, it is necessary at this point to warn folk, not after it's over. Well, I tell you, I did see this, but I didn't say anything. Say it now. This is the time for us to make acute analysis and serious scrutiny about what's happening, so with the purpose of, arming black people with knowledge that will allow them to vote the right way.
Now, I'm going to tell you, you're listening to Michael Eric Dyson, professor, and also Stephen, I believe Michael Eric Dyson is a professor at Princeton, but also Stephen A. Smith, the top broadcaster for ESPN, makes about $15 million a year, allegedly. And they're talking about politics, not just sport. I'm telling you, there's a sea change for beautiful, intelligent black men, and all they got to start doing now is talk about reparations now, reparations forever. They're going to talk about the black vote, which is more important than who won a game.
Before I move on to my next question, I want you to take a look at this post from Fox News analyst Josh Kraushaw. That's his name. Mm-hmm. Mr. Trump also wins more than 20% of black voters, a tally that would be the highest level of black support for any Republican presidential candidate since the enactment of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. One of the things that I'm going to make it a priority to do on this show, at least a couple of times a month, if not more, as the election approaches, Dr. Dyson, is I want to focus on the black vote. I want to focus on the black community. What we used to do compared to what we've done, what we're doing, what we intend to do. And I want you to highlight, being a historian that you are, the obvious answer to why the Democrats have had a stranglehold on the black vote since 1964 is obviously because of civil rights legislation that was written in the law in 1964 by President Lyndon B. Johnson, even though people from both parties brought it to his desk. But ever since that time, according to reports about Lyndon B. Johnson, we do this and we'll have the Negroes voting for us for the next 200 years. And at a time, it certainly appeared to be that way. And because of that, people have held on to it and used it as a form of cynicism to say the Democratic Party has taken the black vote for granted. So as a result, we ain't going for the okie doke anymore. We're going to change this up. That's what some of the black folks, who clearly are Trump supporters, are now articulating. I want to know, in your estimation, is there truth to that level of thinking, that level of verbiage being thrown out there by those Trump supporters, black and otherwise, and how valid it is in your mind of an argument for them to make against the Democratic Party?
Yeah, look, if you're suffering in a certain way, and African American people across the board are, as the brothers in the street say, irregardless of your party, whether you're Democrat or Republican, there's no question about that. However, if you say under the Democrats you are frustrated and flustered because certain issues are not being taken seriously, or you don't think you're being heard, or you think you're being taken for granted, it's a kind of Bobby Womack approach to this whole thing. If you think you're lonely now, wait until tonight, girl. Okay? So the thing is that if you think you're frustrated and flustered under the Democrats, the reason the Republicans have not garnered more of the African American vote, and I'll tell you, it's easy. It would be easy for them to do so because there is agreement outside of what I believe. I happen to be a progressive, liberal thinker within African American culture. The masses of black people would disagree with me on certain issues in terms of LGBTQA, QI, transgender, and the like, and so on. I understand that. I don't lie to myself about that. However, what I say is the masses of black people who happen to be conservative would find it more easy to vote Republican if the Republicans weren't so repugnant and repulsive in some of their explicit racist manipulations or their implicitly racist policies or outlooks. So in other words, if they weren't so focused on retaliating against the fragile gains of African American people and could find a way to make concessions in their own ideological tent, a lot more black people would be gathered under there. Just because you're hurting in your left pinky doesn't mean that I'm going to go to somebody who's going to hurt the other three fingers. You want to hurt less, not more. And under Republican ideology and practices, look at the gerrymandering going on in state legislatures. Look at the drawing of voting maps that are dissipating the concentrated effect of black voting districts. The Supreme Court just ruled a couple of days ago saying, I think it was in Louisiana or somewhere, that the attempt of the state legislatures and the courts to gerrymander against African American people and to draw maps that would disfavor them is constitutionally invalid. So this is the effect of the Republicans. They want to gain every advantage possible, legally or not, constitutionally or not. And I think that all of this discourse among Republicans about steal the vote and look at what happened, the truth is that there's very little of stealing the vote among Democrats. There's a little voting irregularity. What we can point to is the sheer manipulation of ideologues within the right wing or the Republican Party. Having said that, I think there is frustration among African American people. We ain't gonna be on no plantation. Well, what plantation you think you're leaving and going to? If you're on a Democratic plantation, if that's what you conceive it to be, which I don't, what plantation will you now go to? You think you'll be independent? You think voting for Donald Trump or the right wing is something that will serve your interest? There is no evidence of this. So while there may be frustration, look, I would like the Lakers to be in the finals every year because I'm a Lakers fan since I was a kid. But they ain't in the finals. It's going to be maybe Minnesota, and it's going to be maybe the Boston Celtics. Who knows? The point is, your team that you desire to be there ain't there. So the choices you have are who's there, not this fantasy land. I wish it was this case. And I think we have to suggest to African American people, yes, we've got to sometimes bite the bullet. Yes, we've got to sometimes look the bully in the face and say this is true and not true, but we don't gain when we capitulate to interests that have evidently undermined our community and not shown much interest otherwise. Yes.
Me lightning strike! When you hear the people talking about voting for a party that voted anti-reparations in the California State Senate, Senate Bill 1403, Senate Bill 1050, and Senate Bill 1331. Almost all the nays were from Republicans. I'll say that one more time. As people say, they're gonna vote for the man that led an insurrection, and the Proud Boys stand by and stand ready, and told the black voters he doesn't even believe in reparations. That's what Trump said. You have Republican, you can Google it yourself, the Republican governors that are turning away from diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's black. That's African American. You have Republican governors that are voting against diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then you have some black rappers that say, hey, I'm going to vote for that guy that's trying to get rid of educating people about my own history. You got 50 states in the United States. 30 of them have already introduced bills to overthrow diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then you have some black folks saying, well, you know, he speaks his mind. Yeah, he just told your butt he's going to do away with diversity, equity, and inclusion. He questioned the only time in the history of this country that a president's birth certificate is being questioned. And you want to vote for that crap? If you Google a lawsuit, the largest lawsuit for housing discrimination in the United States of America was under Trump's family. They would not rent buildings to black Americans. They settled. And I know some of you who are going to vote for POTUS, you probably be forgetting about the Central Park 5, where he wanted to send 5 innocent black men to the death penalty for being innocent. You know, people who look like your children. Yeah, you know, those people. People who look like your children, black children. So you can say what you want to say. It's about the lesser of two evils. But how would you dare vote for somebody who would not even rent an apartment to people who look like you, beautiful, intelligent, black? Because he said what? He gave some money to the HBCUs. The party that voted for the reparations bills at the California State Senate, those are Democratic voters. The party that voted for reparations, Senate Bill 1331, 1403, and 1050, those are Democratic voters. You want to know the voters who voted? They voted no for reparations bills. They're Republicans. You can Google it. I'll give you a few more minutes of Stephen A. Smith, and then I'm going to close out today's show. I don't mind sharing my platform with other people. May lightning strike! Open your eyes, black Americans. Your votes for sale. If President Biden has any common sense, he'll say reparations now, reparations forever.
It is hard, perhaps, for some people to vote Democratic and to be in that group, but it is far more difficult and far more paralyzing to make the choice to swing in the other direction.
Well, one of the things that I think, and I've articulated that on this show as well, that, you know, people have had an attitude with me about, I said, I think you applaud the Democratic Party. The greatest thing that the Democratic Party, or one of the greatest things that the Democratic Party has done for the African-American community in this nation is that they were the ones who gave us access to capital. Because when you talk about generational wealth, when you talk about, you know, economic empowerment and what have you, they were the ones that played a significant role in facilitating that. And I don't hear the Democrats spewing about that enough. That's number one. That's one of the things that I said. And the other thing that I pointed out, Dr. Dyson, is this. And I took a lot of heat for this. But again, I don't give a damn. I stand on it. When I think about Trump and the lawfare that has been engaged against him, what I'm saying is I'm not trying to act as if the man is guilty or innocent of anything. The courts will determine that, and we'll go with it from there. What I'm saying is it's not stopping him from being away from the camera. It's not stopping him from playing the role of victim. It's not stopping him from generating campaign dollars. And on top of it all, it hasn't stopped him from being the GOP nominee and the man in line to return to the presidency unless Biden is able to beat him. My point is, I don't think that they've taken that into enough consideration, and you're looking for the courts to come to the rescue instead of you finding a way to beat him yourself. I don't know how much clearer I can be in stating that. Help me out here. Help me out with that message.
You're absolutely right. And then I was thinking when you were talking, you know, playing a little acronym game here, you know, he is a G to many of these people, right? Not the GOP, just the G, just in terms of street discourse. And OP, you're down with OP? Right? So there is some grudging recognition among certain African-American people like, damn, I don't care what you say about Donald Trump. I don't dig him. I ain't trying to vote for him. But, dog, you got to admit, he just don't care. He going to say what he believes. He going to tell you how he thinks it ought to be. And he's going to move forward. There is something to many people that's refreshing about the departure from a political discourse that is so riddled with duplicity, with people not telling the truth, with people not coming out.
May lightning strike! I want to say something. I'm going to play something that not even Stephen A. Smith is talking about, but I do applaud him for talking about real things and not just how black men are big, strong, and fast and running up and down the court. I gotta play this because I want you to hear with your own ears what Dr. Martin Luther King said that will make the presidency necessary and more easily attainable by listening to one of the greatest speakers in the history of the United States.
More seriously, you're right. We do have to develop a bench. We have to generate. And here's the thing. Here's what I know about history, though, is that there's always a ram in the bush somewhere, that there's always somebody ready to step up that we don't even know their name. We didn't know Anthony Edwards was going to be the beast he was, drawing these comparisons to Michael Jordan 2 years ago. Heck, not even a year ago. We saw him coming. We knew he was great, but we didn't know. Is there a corollary in the political world? Maybe not, but then maybe so. There are very articulate, insightful, conscientious political figures. Some would say a Hakeem Jeffries. Some would say a Jasmine Crockett. Some would say, younger people, out of Congress, Jamal Bowman and the like, who are seriously committed to making a difference. There are white and black and Latino politicians who are quite comfortable in trying to forge connections with people across the aisle, but then keeping their eyes on the prize. So that there are people who will certainly emerge because necessity is the mother of invention. However, it is true that we must be deeply and profoundly committed and invested in the process of developing a visibly ready bench of figures to step up into not only the spotlight, more importantly, onto the stage to do the work that is necessary to encourage political progress for African Americans and Latinos and poor white folk and Asian brothers and sisters and so on, who are able to articulate the ideals of the American democracy in ways that are appealing and refreshing, willing to fight for the, quote, the small guy and woman, willing to stand up for those who are poor and who are middle class and do so. And there are many politicians who are able to do that. So we can't give in to cynicism. There was a quote from a black preacher and professor who was the mentor of Martin Luther King Jr., Howard Thurman. And Howard Thurman said, never reduce your dreams to the event you are confronting right now. This event will not exhaust the infinite possibilities of your life or your political destiny. So even though it looks dreary now, we can't reduce our dreams to the dreariness. We've got to elevate ourselves. And remember this, if you think it's bad now, what was it like when Martin Luther King Jr. was alive, or Ralph Abernathy, or Ella Baker, or Joanne Robinson, or Rosa Parks? These people had less and did more. So what we can't forget is that we possess within us the ability and the resource to pull a rabbit out of the hat, to insist that there will be a ram in the bush, and to make certain, not by just praying and wishing and hoping, but by working as hard as we can help shape the very destiny about which we have fear or about which we have concern. We are the answers we are looking for, and we've got to do the work necessary to change the future.
And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Reparations now, reparations forever. Reparations forever. You heard Dr. Martin Luther King. You heard Stephen A. Smith, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. It sounded a lot like Big C Sports, and I respect both men. Imagine when the rest of our beautiful, intelligent black men wake up. What did Radio Raheem say and do the right thing? He said, wake up! Because we are waking up. With California Senate Bill 1050 passing, California Senate Bill 1331 passing, and California Senate Bill 1403 passing because of the great Senator Stephen Bradford. I do appreciate that. May lightning strike! I love bringing you Big C Sports, and I love just bringing you things that are real, because this is happening in our society as we are breathing. I love paying homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I love doing that. I know we all want to know who's going to win the game. I think tonight you have the Boston Celtics. They are taking on the Indiana Pacers. And I think Boston's going to win that game tonight. It's just the way they're a better team. And all eyes are on TD Garden, All's Fair 11 War. I know Indiana has a chance because Boston oftentimes will give up a game at home. But I don't think it's going to happen tonight. Eastern Conference Finals, the playoffs expectations cannot be more different between the heavily favored Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. I think Rick Carlisle, he said it's his fault that they lost the last game, and maybe so. But it's about get the hole in your life for three, yes! I think it's about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, all friend level war with the Boston Celtics. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I think they win. Now the Pacers, they qualified for the first Eastern Finals since 2014. Boston's almost there like every year. And they began as a number 6 seed. The Celtics won the season series 3-2 against Indiana, and they're facing the Pacers 5 times due in the season tournament. And Boston outscored Indiana by an average of 129 to 116. And I think that's about the scores tonight. I think Indiana's going to fight hard, but they're not going to fight hard enough. They're going to go down, and they're going to go down hard. Tyrese Halliburton's not going to help. Boston's going to get this game tonight. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. May lightning strike! Well, as I always tell you, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy. On my mother's side, my great-grandparents called them Mama and Pop. My grandparents called them Muddia and Hezekiah. I could always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coached an all-boys, a Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, always saying rise and shine. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert Curry and Alberta Curry, they own 3 churches and also 2 gas stations in Oakland. I was 8 years old walking through a hallway, and at about 10 o'clock at night, I felt someone touch me on my forehead. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some more cookies?" I said, "What are you doing up, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, "What are you doing? Get some more cookies?" I said, "Cookies are baby crap. That's what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations." But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt because it's been a long time. Appreciate my grandma very much. Then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we could all stay safe at night. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, always saying go forward. And then my beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning. When Todd would speak, always saying go forward, a voracious reader. And then my beautiful brother Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors, and 3.5 years from Amazing University. Set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media. Normally they would go to ESPN. Now ESPN's copying Big C style. Daisy, you could be anything you want. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17. That no weapon formed against you will prosper. And reparations now. Reparations forever. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, every night a good man. Helped me save trees. I used to always look up newspapers to get stats for Big C Sports Podcast. One day Malcolm said, "Dad, why don't you just Google it?" And then a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since on 29 podcast platforms, streaming on 4 TV platforms. One day Malcolm said, "Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You see your show come up." That's before it was even on the air. Now you can find it on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Michael, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. I love you. You can be anything you want to be. And you know it, son. You're a good man. Always, 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 always be that good man that God made you to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, like my great-granddaddy coming out of that barn with the church buddies, always saying you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe, saying let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. ESPY nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no three-way teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. And I'm trying to break bread with other broadcasters and attorneys all over the universe. As long as you're talking reparations now, reparations forever, you always have a place with Big C Sports Podcast. I want to say there's a gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients call it the third eye. They say that's how you talk to God, and that's what I use when I do Big C Sports Podcast, and I love doing it. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. What my beautiful mother always said, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever go through that crap on their own. If somebody hurts you, you got to have more leader in your life. Leader is an acronym for love is the answer. If somebody's slapping you, call 911. If somebody's kicking you, call 911. If somebody's choking you out, call 911. No man, woman, or child should ever put up with that crap. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as you always know, back by popular demand, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. So there's only one more thing to do. If you want to be the next president, you got to champion reparations now, reparations forever. Say it like your heart, mind, body, and soul believes in it. You got to champion reparations now, reparations forever. Come on, say it like your heart, mind, body, and soul really believes in it. You got to champion with me. Say reparations now, reparations forever. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.